Hello everyone and welcome to the Gooner Factory. So in this video we'll be looking ahead to tomorrow's game against Fulham, what we can expect, what we need to do and why Arteta is demanding more. So let's get into it. So just like that, we're back at it again tomorrow, and I'm sure the players after the last performance cannot wait to get out there and hopefully right this wrong. That performance against West Ham was so bad. Like we said in the post-match reaction, the actual play in terms of how we got on wasn't too bad, but just the amount of chances we missed. I think we broke a record. There was over like 70 touches in the opposition box, but we still couldn't do anything with it. But this is a new game. It'll be interesting to see what Arteta does in terms of lineup. I think there's going to be one or two changes that he definitely makes. But let's have a look. So we're playing away at Fulham. Fulham are in 13th position, but they're joint third highest goals conceded. So for Arsenal, that probably works out well. At a time where our attackers can't finish their dinner, playing a team that has the third highest goals conceded probably works well, you would hope. And hopefully a couple of them attackers can get a couple of goals and just try and get some momentum now. Try and gather some confidence so then we can take that forward, because the attackers this season have not been doing that well. Saka is the only one who's been producing, and even he hasn't scored in a couple of games. But in terms of assists and goals, he's actually doing quite well. He's our joint top scorer, only with 5 goals though still. But the other two, Martinelli and Jesus, they need to pick up. So let's look at Fulham's last 3 games. Okay, so they've lost their last 3 games in the league. 3-0 at Newcastle, which for them you would probably expect them to be losing against Newcastle. They lost 2-0 to Burnley at home, and then they lost 3-0 to Bournemouth as well. So this is probably a team that's lacking confidence as well. They haven't had the best results recently, but if you look before that, they did win 5-0 at home against West Ham. So let's not think this team has no chance against Arsenal. If they're beating West Ham 5-0, then they can definitely cause us problems, 100%. So they're danger players, you would probably have to say. I've picked out 3. Alex Iwobi, we obviously know all about him from his time at Arsenal. Not the most dangerous guy you would say in terms of producing numbers, producing goals, but he can be quite tricky in moments, and that's probably why Fulham bought him. They got Paulinho, who we know is a tremendous player, being linked with massive teams. Bayern Munich, Arsenal have been linked with him. Man City was linked to him yesterday that I saw. So this is a player that would get into a lot of top teams around Europe, so we have to be mindful of that when we're playing the ball in midfield. Then the last one is Andreas Pereira, who used to play for Man United. I remember seeing him a few times, and when he's on it, he's actually capable of producing some fairly decent results. So I think that's someone we also have to look out for. In terms of how he's getting on this season, I think between them, they've not got more than 3 goals. I think they've all got about 2 or 3 goals each. So they're not the most clinical in terms of finishing, but they're definitely some players that we should look out for. So what do Arsenal have to do in this game? I think first of all, you have to wipe out the defensive mistakes. You know, Zinchenko, he's been producing a few mistakes lately, but even Gabriel, you could probably say he was involved in their couple of games when we played West Ham. So these defensive mistakes need to be cut out. If we're to have any chance of winning games when our attack is lacking, we need to be cutting out the mistakes defensively, that's for sure. Midfield, I don't think the midfield looked particularly good last game. I think we had 2 good midfield performances in Declan Rice and Odegaard, but Trossard didn't really perform to the level he probably would have liked to. I think the last time I saw him in that centre mid role where he played more central, he actually looked pretty decent, and I was championing him to be played in this game because I knew we was without Havertz. But when he come in and played, I don't think he done anything that's sort of worth mentioning at all. Which is a shame, because his playtime, you would think, is probably going to be limited in their more forward positions. We know we got Martinelli, Saka and Jesus, and in my opinion, he's not really better than any of them players. So to play him in them positions will only be sort of a bit part role. He's not going to be able to secure one of them starting 11 positions. And I thought this more central role is probably more up for grabs than them forward positions. So I would have liked to have seen him come in and put on a really good display, but it didn't really happen. So now you would imagine Kai Havertz for this game is probably going to slot straight back into that starting 11, and Trossard is going to be sitting back on the bench again, but that's only of his own doing. And then, like I mentioned, the attack, they really need to do something. They really need to start scoring. The January transfer window is coming up, and I was always, I hope these players start scoring so we don't have to buy anyone. But now I'm starting to think we actually need to buy someone, because these attackers, they're not capable of scoring 20 goals a season. We've seen it. Gabriel Jesus has never reached that number. He's always been unfortunate because he has picked up a lot of injuries, sort of with Man City and now with Arsenal. But the amount of chances he missed in that last game, you would like to think a proper out-and-out scorer number 9, like an Toney in that game, would have gobbled up them goals. I think he would have had at least a hat-trick, because there was 2 headers definitely should have scored. A couple of shots in central areas as well that he knocked wide. And now I just can't help but think that if we do have that real number 9 up front, I think we're bound to score more goals. And that's where the Arteta demand comes in, because he came out after the game and in his sort of post-match press conference, he's demanding more, because they asked him, you know, you've had 30 shots, but you couldn't convert, so what do you have to do? And he was saying, well, we need to create more chances. If we need to create 50 or 60 chances, then that's what we demand. But I can't help thinking, you know, is that even really possible? We created so many chances in that game. It shouldn't be about create more and more chances. You would obviously like that, but the amount of chances we created in that game should have been ample for our attackers to finish some of them off. So it's all good and well, Arteta demanding more chances, but we should be demanding more goals. And if them players aren't up to it, then we need to start thinking about bringing an Ivan Toney in, who I've always been under the impression of he wouldn't come in and be the guy that we need. But looking at that last game, I think he would have buried many of them chances. So maybe he is the answer. Maybe that is the guy they're looking at. If not, Victor Osimhen, he would have definitely scored a few goals in that game. So these players definitely need to start finishing some of them chances, or the fans are now going to start demanding that we go out and buy a striker. So in terms of starting lineup, it's going to be Raya, Zinchenko, Gabriel, Saliba, Ben White. You know, that's been the same back four for the last few weeks. We know we've got injuries, so we've had to keep playing that same back four. The times Kiwior has come in, let's be honest, he hasn't really looked up to the standard. And there's a lot of reports coming out that we're actually willing to sell him in January to raise funds for new players. And I've been saying in a few of my videos, I would get rid of Kiwior. There's a lot of people online saying no chance, he's only just come in. But you can kind of judge a player from the amount of game time that Kiwior's even had. And to me, he doesn't look up to the level needed to be in a team that's under a title charge and looking to go a long way in the Champions League. So the midfield, Rice, you would have to imagine Havertz is going to slot straight back in, Odegaard, and then Saka, Martinelli and Jesus. And if we had more enforcements in them more forward areas, you would have to imagine one or two of them players, or maybe even all three of them, would be dropped. Because they haven't been producing, and the fact we haven't got competition in them areas where maybe a Man City would have, or a Real Madrid would have, you know, these are the teams we need to aspire to be more like. You know, these are the guys that are winning Premier Leagues, winning Champions Leagues. If we need to get to that level, we need to have players in various positions who are capable of coming in and improving what we've already got. You know, it's good for players to have healthy competition because it keeps them on the top of their game. But our players don't have that. They know they can put in a poor performance, and obviously they're not trying to. But when they do, they know there's no repercussions. They're not going to lose their place in the next game because that's all we've got. We have to use these players. And I think they are good enough. But it's about time they pull their finger out and actually start scoring some goals. So in terms of title race, who do our rivals have this weekend? We've got Liverpool versus Newcastle. That's not till Monday evening. So this gives us a chance to go back above them and put the pressure on. You know, Newcastle is never an easy game. They're not the team they was last season, but it's certainly not an easy team to beat. Aston Villa are playing Burnley today at 3 o'clock. You would imagine that would be a fairly comfortable one. Villa is at home as well. And then Man City are playing Sheffield United. So that's basically a guaranteed win for City as well. And as we know, they've got one game in hand. And if they win that, they're level on points with us. So we cannot afford to drop points in this game. And I'll say this now, if we lose this game, that could just be the end of our title hopes this year. And I know it's early. I know there's a lot of games left to be played. But the way we're playing this season, it doesn't fill me with much confidence. The chances that we're missing this season, it doesn't fill me with much confidence. So I think in terms of our title rivals, Liverpool are maybe the only ones that are capable of dropping points. But I look forward to watching all them games. So let me know your thoughts on everything you've heard in this video. What's your score prediction for the Arsenal vs Fulham game? I'm going for a 3-0 win to Arsenal. I don't know where them goals are going to come from, but I'm pretty sure someone will score them. Thanks so much to everyone for watching and listening. If you could, before you go, hit the like and subscribe button. And I'll speak to you all in tomorrow's video. Gooners, have a good day.